Hey everybody, it's John.
And it's David, your other co-commish. And so just wanted to mention to you guys, we're back to doing weekly recaps because we were terrible with projections. I think all three of our sleeper projections were like their worst weeks in a long time. So we really cursed them. So sorry about that for the people who had those players.
So first we're going to start off with talking about the players above 30 this week. There were only two players, Alvin Kamara and Tom Brady, but we have a few honorable mentions because they scored close to 30 points. Josh Jacobs with 29.6, I think, or 29.2, something like that. Ben Roethlisberger with 29.3, and Kyler Murray got 29.9. Actually, a player I went up against. So
Yeah. And the winners this week were Paez, James, Steph, Benji, Alyssa, and me. So congrats to all the winners this week. And with that said, we're going to talk about our first matchup, which is Piaz versus Axel. So Aaron Rodgers ended up scoring 25 points against the Jacks defense, close to what was projected, but the game flow definitely was not what we all projected. Jacksonville really kept that game a lot closer. Leonard Fournette ended up having a tough day against Carolina. That backfield is really tough to pinpoint on the Bucks. Kind of reminded me of like the New England backfield. You never know which running back's going to go off. Speaking of running backs that went off, Nick Chubb back from IR and scored 18 points for Paez. Um, it's a good thing for Pius for being patient and keeping Chubb on his roster, not trading him away. All that wind in the game that Chubb was in really killed the passing game. So you can see that in the running backs. And Evan Ingram had a tough matchup against Philly, but hey, at least the Giants won. You should be happy with that, Pies.
So for Axel, Wayne Gallman with two touchdowns, I believe, and 19 points against Axel's Philadelphia defense. Ross Dwelly only scored 3 points. Seems like you need a new tight end. Come see me. I'll make a trade with you. D Hop with that game-winning Hail Mary TD and scored 25 points for Axel, but the rest of his team really dropped the ball. The Cardinals defense had a tough matchup against a good Josh Allen-led Bills offense. Allen proving that he's the best quarterback of his class.
And with the Israel and James matchup, Kareem Hunt also did really well, rushing for 100 yards. Both Kareem and Chubb. That windy game really nerfed the passing game. Robert Woods had a surprisingly good game too, or had a surprisingly good matchup. However, did not have a good game and ended up only scoring 8 points. The Colts defense coming up strong on Thursday against Derrick Henry. Not an easy running back to stop. They've had many tough opponents in the past, and Colts are proven to be a really good defense this season. And Duke Johnson started for the injured David Johnson, and he proved that he shouldn't be the starter. So once DJ comes back, he'll take back over.
So we just talked about Josh Allen and how he led that Bills offense. He had a great game, doing everything he could and scoring 24 points for James. No defense, no problem, I guess. Looked like he took that defense out at the last second. Chase Claypool played really well against Denver for over 20 points. Great rookie draft pick by the Steelers. And Jonathan Taylor Thomas. So Jonathan Taylor Thomas is an actor who no one knows anymore. And it seems as though the Colts don't even know who Jonathan Taylor is either. 5 points for the projected starting running back at the start of the season. Crazy.
Yeah, running backs are really thin this year. And for our third matchup, the Steph versus Paris matchup, we have Alvin Kamara being Alvin Kamara, 34 points. I feel like I shouldn't even have to say this every week. Just assume he's got 30 plus. Russell Wilson, though, on the opposite end, can't assume what you see every week because he threw for 2 interceptions, had a tough day. T. Higgins looking like the wide receiver one option on the Bengals. They drafted him to be that replacement for AJ Green, and that's really panning out early on. I wish I had his 22 points on my roster. But Marvin Jones having 23 points this week, but on Steph's bench. That one's got to hurt.
So Paris picked up this guy, Savon Ahmad. I don't even know how to say his name, but he was like the fourth string running back, but Paris got 16 points from him. That's a great pickup. The aforementioned AJ Green was literally non-existent against the Steelers defense with 0 points. He didn't score a single point. You could see where that offense is kind of changing too. The younger players. John Brown played well against the Cardinals for 13 points, and TJ Hawkinson, I know, was injured going into the game, probably the reason why he only scored 3 points. So that's tough.
Our fourth matchup, we got the Benji slash Caesar team versus Joe. By the way, congrats, Benji, on your first win being in the league. Just wanted to give you that shout out. So Adam Thielen definitely helped give you that win with those 2 TDs and scoring you 20 points. Brandon Cooks, that was my projected sleeper. I'm sorry. I gave your guy bad juju because he only got 9 points. Thumbs down, my bad. Hopefully he'll do you better this following week. Cordell Patterson played really well against the Minnesota defense, but Allen Robinson did not play well and only got 10 points. Though when you think about it, 10 points is actually pretty good, but I'm sure you were hoping for more to catch up on those points for that you're a little behind on.
So for Joe, Justin Herbert scored 20 points. And I talked about this in the video last week. I said if Big Ben clears COVID protocols to play Big Ben, and he would have scored 29 points. But we won't go there. Melvin Gordon had a tough game against the Vegas defense. I guess he couldn't cash in his chips. The Saints played really well against a crazy depleted 49ers offense. Austin Hooper, the last minute pickup, only scored Joe 2 points. Again, need a tight end? Give me a shout.
All right, so for our fifth matchup, John versus Alyssa, Dalvin Cook played well and scored John 15 points, but unfortunately, John needed more than 15. He needed Dalvin Cook to score those average 40-point games he's been having recently. Sorry, John. But at least your kicker, 11 points, that's been doing you pretty well, right? And kickers matter, right? DK, though, not doing well. Rams defense, 4 points. That's got to be tough. I mean, usually when you play against a division rival, don't be too surprised when your players underperform. And Marquise Brown has not been playing well over the past few weeks either for John. So, John, you're asking all these people to hit you up for a tight end. You better ask for a wide receiver.
I'm trying. With Alyssa, listen, Liz. Kyler Murray, 29 points, Hail Mary TD. I don't know what else I got to say. Darnell Mooney had a tough game against the Minnesota secondary for 2 points. DeAndre Swift, I mean, he's the starting back in that offense, and he just ran through the football team defense. Noah Fant didn't have a good game against Las Vegas. I don't even know if anybody in Denver had a good game. So that was a tough one.
That's a good observation, John. And then the Tej versus me matchup, Lamar Jackson finally played a good game. It's been a while. Played against the Pats, even though his team didn't win. At least he got 21 points. James Conner, though, starting to hit rough patches in his run games against the Bengals. Jason Sanders came up with 13 points. I tried to pick him up this week so I could play him. Looks like Tej stole him from me, but guess what? I still won. But it's a kicker year, I feel. Some of these kickers are really starting to get the double-digit points again. And then Cole Beasley, 27 points on your bench. That's gotta hurt a bit, but let's be real. I probably wouldn't have started him either. But those points, you really want them on your squad instead of on your bench.
So for David, Antonio Gibson, I mean, it must have been like a running back head-to-head kind of thing, because Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissic scored big points. And DeAndre Swift just scored big points too. Will Fuller had a tough game in that windy Cleveland environment. I mean, but Scary Terry, played a great game against Detroit, even though there were some big scores in this game. Came down to really a field goal to win it by Matt Prater. So that was pretty cool. And after a few good weeks, Carson Wentz kind of came down to earth with 9 points, but let's see if he can bounce back. I mean, you got to rep that home QB, So the biggest blowouts, we're going to do biggest blowouts and closest matchup again this week because we thought those were kind of cool. So the biggest blowout that we had last week was was Paris versus Steph. But it actually ended up being my team versus Alyssa. So get some karma there going for you. But I am now projecting that Alyssa versus Paris is going to be the blowout for this week. And here's the reasons why. Alyssa has those 2 young running backs in DeAndre Swift and J.D. McKissic. And I just think they're putting up a lot of points for her so far, and I think they're going to continue doing that. Kyler Murray has been playing well. He's been running more and making good decisions. And Paris has tough depth. I mean, he needs a lot of help with his running backs and wide receivers. And there's a few players out this week for Paris. And if Joe Mixon comes back for Alyssa, I think it's just going to be even worse for Paris. And I just like Alyssa's bench. I mean, much better than Paris's. She just has that depth.
And for our projected closest matchup last week, I projected that it was going to be between Joe and James, and it ended up coming down to that. It was decided by 14 points, not at that close, but out of all the matchups, that actually was still the closest. For me this week, it is projected to be oh, actually no, sorry, I misspoke. It was the Joe and Benji matchup. That was the one that was supposed to be the closest, not James. Sorry, James. And so this week I'm now projecting to be the Pies and Benji. So I'm putting Benji on the hot seat yet again, but at least, hey, you won the last one. And here are my reasonings why I think Pies and the Benji game is going to come down to the wire. They both have good running backs, not great, but they still have serviceable players that can get good points. Their wide receivers, again, are good, but not great. With good rookie potential, with Pies having Mike Williams and Benji having Justin Jefferson, who I traded him not too long ago. They have strong flexes in Jacoby Myers for Pies and for Brandon Cooks for Benji. Those guys have had bad games, but they've also more recently have had good games. Both defenses are against poor offenses. Pies having the Steelers defense against Jacksonville, but Jacksonville showed us that they can play against a strong offense in Green Bay, so they'll hopefully surprise us. Benji's Cleveland playing against the Eagles, they showed us the opposite. The Eagles showing that they can't really mount much of an offense. However, every time you count the Eagles out, they somehow come back in. I can't. It's hard being an Eagles fan projecting them. The tight ends in this matchup are tight ends, aka forgettable. The kickers are kickers. Can't predict kickers. Both teams seem very conservative, so I think their scores will come out pretty similarly. But I'm going to give Paez the win in this one because it's subtly his running backs, his flex, and his defense are better. But I still think it'll be close.
So with week 9 being over, this means that pretty much if the season ends due to COVID, that Steph would be the winner yet again. Steph has that, I think it's like a 2 or 3 game lead on top of Israel. So, good stuff, Steph. But let's think positively and keep going on with the season and hope we can get to the playoffs and declare a winner there. Also, there's not going to be any more game time meetups due to the increasing COVID cases. We had some good times, and we appreciate everybody coming out for those meetups. And hopefully next season we can do a lot more once things calm down, and there'll be more options.
Yep, that'd definitely be good to hear and have those. But just to know, teams on bye this week are the Bears, Buffalo, Giants, and 49ers. And with that said, I'm David, your co-commish. I'm rooting for my 76ers this week today for the NBA draft. Go Sixers.
And I'm John, your co-commish. The Jets were on a bye last week, but listen, we got the Chargers. Maybe it's a win. Who knows? See you guys next week. Maybe we'll do a production video. Maybe we'll do a recap video. Who knows? We're going to surprise everyone. Bye.